from capitalism. So what is needed? This is the issue, of course, after Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and we'll go on uh, toward reforming finance. So, what are the changes that we really call for, even gradually or even in the final analysis? We are going to discuss these 5 points here: uh, redefining finance, the fundamental elements in Islamic finance. We'll look at them quickly, like a revision of what we've discussed also before. And then we will discuss the Islamic finance inspired reform and what are the required changes that would be needed from the central banks and other necessary reforms that should accompany the financial reform. So this is a kind of exercise to really understand more in depth what are the differences between Islamic finance and the capitalist finance in the way it is existing now in the world. Redefining finance, definitely the current definition of finance that is taught in universities is incomplete, because definitely financing that is done by businesses, like go to buy a car and you get finance from not the car dealer finance company, but maybe from the car dealer, or go buy furniture and get finance from the trader himself, from the seller of the furnitures. So this kind of finance is not included, because finance is defined as giving credit or cash. But really, finance is even giving goods or giving services, as long as the counterpart is either delayed or does not exist at all. Is giving a gift a finance? When we give a donation, say, to an organization, of a charitable organization, are we not financing the charitable organization? Definitely, that is finance. So even donation then, or charity or sadaqah, is a form of finance. So in fact, we need to redefine finance to cover what we have in practice by Islamic financial institutions, which is a better representation, a better definition of what really finance is. Should be the provision of goods and services and means of payment, of course, either of these altogether, without requiring the counterpart to be delivered at the same time. So, as long as there's no counterpart at the same time, that is finance. When the counterpart is delayed, or there's no counterpart to start with, as in gift or donations or charity, etc. So we really redefining finance is an important thing to understand what really is going on. Uh, the role of the finance sector, as defined in the textbooks, it is financial intermediation. Although financial intermediation means receiving the excess funds or excess liquidities that exist in the hands of some people usually income earners, and that is part of their income that they save, receiving this part and have the ability to offering it to people who need it, who could be consumers or could be businesses or producers, either way. This is what is financial intermediation. But what is unfortunately, as we noticed with financialization in the Western or in the capitalist economies, we noticed that financialization took the finance sector away from this function to make profit out of what is called the trading book more than the banking book. They call the banking book as the activities that relate to financial intermediation, receiving excess funds from savers and or those people who have some excess and giving them or offering them to those who use them. This function is usually put in the banking books, in the banks. Now, banks under the present stage of capitalism earn more from the trading book that is from selling debts, from trading debts, from carrying debts to the money market accounts or to the money market in the bourse, in the exchange markets, and trading financial securities. This became the major source of income of banks in America today, which is really not financial intermediation. One of the reforms that we call for is to bring back the financial sector and financial institutions to do this financial intermediation job instead of doing any other job. And that should be their only, not only their main source, but their only source of return. Now, the main elements as we studied them of Islamic finance are realism. Islamic finance deals with things and the issues as they are on the ground in real life, as they are in reality. We don't make assumptions by them. One of the major assumptions is the rate of interest. In fact, it is assumed. And you notice it is always affected by many non-economic even variables, including by the media, by the talks, by expectations, which is so far from real economics. But so in Islamic finance, we stick to the reality as it is on the ground. One of them definitely is that debt does not create added value. So we don't make an assumption that it has an added value. It doesn't, it cannot create added value. Real assets that produce increments or utilities create wealth. And those who cannot produce any increment or any added value cannot create wealth. And if they don't create wealth, we cannot attribute wealth creation to them. As debts do not generate utilities or increment, no wealth creation could be attributed to debts. And consequently, there should be no reason for making any economic gain from exchanges of debts, from trading debts or transferring debts from one creditor to another. that does not create any added value. So we don't find it as an economic transaction in the Islamic system of finance. The finance provider must then own wealth generating assets or goods in order to be entitled for any return. This is an important principle of Islamic finance. And, oops, okay. Uh, Again, realism is the important and fundamental requirement in all Islamic finance transactions, both in the text of contracts, in the conditions of finance contract, and also in the object of the finance contract. Must be a real transfer of assets or goods or services. No fake, no fictitious, no hypothetical or virtual transactions or assets. Financial instruments are considered and legitimized only if they represent real assets. If they represent fictitious assets, then they are fiction. Now, a question, and I need one of you to please answer it if you can. Uh, is debt a real asset or not?
It's
Anyone
not.
can answer? Go ahead, please.
It's not.
Well, then give me a loan of $100, and because I owe you a debt, because it's not real, I will not pay it. Why should I pay it back then? It is real assets. Debt is definitely a real asset. And this is one of the mistakes some of you made, mentioning the word tangible asset. An asset need not to be tangible. It can be intangible also, like a computer program is an asset, like the right of authorship. Someone wrote a book and he has his right of authorship. These are assets, non tangible assets. They are abstract, but not every abstract asset is not real. Now, there are fictitious assets that have nothing really, like an index. What is an index? Is just nothing. The index is calculation. So there is nothing. A share of a company is understood. I can understand that. That represents ownership of part of the company. But the index is what? Is only a mere calculation. So buying and selling units of index is buying and selling fake things completely. So debt is a real asset, but it is an abstract asset. Abstract assets are of two kinds. There are abstract assets that generate added value. If I buy a computer program that helps me reducing the time I spend on some of my work, that will give me a lot of benefit, and that is uh, an added value generator. But a debt cannot generate any added value by its nature. So we need really to distinguish between, and I'm introducing now a new word, a mute asset. Cash that is in your pocket or in your vault, as long as it remains in the vault, is a mute asset, in fact. But if you take it out and buy, suppose, say, bottles of water with it, and then a week later sell these bottles of water or complete selling them within a week, you get again cash once more. Now imagine when cash was in your vault, it did not produce anything. But now, instead of the say 1,000 dinar or dollar you had at the beginning, you have now 1,200 at the end after you sold the bottles of water. There was an increase. Now, this increase happened at what stage? Did it happen at the monetary stage or at the goods stage? It happened definitely at the goods stage. You bought goods, you bought the bottles with that same 1,000 dinar, but you sold them within a week for 1,200 dinar. Now, the addition is not a result of the monetary asset. It is really a result of the bottles that you bought with 1,000 and you sold them for 1,200. So the increment happens uh, in the stage of goods that generate real benefit to people, which is obvious in this example. Now, cash, money, when it is in your vault, it is also a mute asset, an asset that is not able by its nature to generate any additional wealth or added value. Same thing, a debt is also like cash in your pocket. As long as as it is in your pocket, it does not generate added value, and debt also is by its nature not able to generate any added wealth or additional property, additional wealth. And as we got it several times by now, you haven't seen at all a baby debt coming out from the stomach or from whatever it is of a debt. Uh, that doesn't happen. It's not like the cow. You have a baby cow that may come from the cow. So we need really to distinguish between mute asset and real asset. Real asset may be tangible or may be intangible, and real asset may be mute or may be productive, able to generate additional value. Okay, so let's continue now because that relates really to the realism. Okay, sticking to assets or goods or to real market, sticking to real market. This is the second very important fundamental element in Islamic finance, that is earning by owning. You've got to own in full and become a full owner, not simply a restricted owner. For instance, if you buy a commodity, let's take the Islamic Bank, for instance. You want to finance, you find a car or, say, a refrigerator. To avoid cars all the time, a refrigerator that you want to buy and you want the Islamic Bank to finance it. You go to the bank and negotiate with it the terms of payment, on how many installment, and you also negotiate the credit price for it. Both of you would know the cash price because you already discussed that cash price with the supplier and you selected that kind and that brand of refrigerator. So the Islamic Bank must buy that asset, and if it buys it without taking delivery of it, does it become full owner of it? No, it is not owned yet. So it has to buy it and take delivery of it. And that can be done through the agent. And the agent can be the customer himself. So through the agent, who is the customer himself, will take delivery of it, because the objective of Islamic finance is not to complicate life, to keep it as simple as possible. And this is the advice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is reported that he never had a choice between two things, that he did not choose the easiest and simplest among them. So, complicating life is not one of the objectives of Islamic finance, but realism is definitely an important element. So, you have, for the Islamic bank, has to own in reality, in full reality, with full responsibility of the ownership, own the commodity before it can sell it on credit to the customer. Buying it for 1,000, selling it for 3,000 on, or for 1,300 for on credit, that is permissible. Could be 300 addition, could be 200 or whatever. But now, once it is sold and not yet delivered, can you change the price? No. You have to deliver now. It is not in your ownership. How can you change the price? This was a question of one of you. How can you change the price after you already sold it? What you sold it, now you don't own that item. You own a debt on the customer. And any change in the price after signing the sale contract will be a change in the amount of debt, really. It is not a change in the price. So you really cannot change it once you sold it, even though you did not deliver it yet. It's not yours. It is now transferred in ownership to the customer, but the customer's ownership is not complete because you did not make delivery to the customer. So, but yet you are not the owner. The customer owns it, an incomplete ownership. In other words, the customer, for instance, cannot sell it for profit or for any other price as long as he did not take, or she did not take, delivery of it. So any change in the price then after you sold it, even before delivery, is really a change in the amount of debt. And change in the amount of debt, any increment, is not real. It violates the principle of realism. And of course, it is prohibited and it is defined as riba. So sticking to the real market, earning by owning. And once you sell, you don't own. You cannot increase your earning. You cannot change the price after that, because increasing the price is changing your earning. And you are earning from a debt, not from an asset now, because you already sold it. So owning a property that creates increments or added value justifies the acquisition of the added value generated by that property. To earn money in the field of finance, one must have an asset. Of course, a real asset, but can this asset be mute? It shouldn't be mute. It should be a value generating asset. Unfortunately, some instruments enable people to earn without owning assets in today's financial sector, such as futures and other derivatives. The meaning of derivative, really, that means it is fake. It is derived. It is something that is only derived. It's kind of just fabricated. Okay, so go to the next slide. The return of finance, the return of the finance provider would arise from sale at a higher price in the case of murabaha and its likes, other kind of sale, or from the value of utility generated in the case of leasing, or from the return coming from the sale of products resulting from use of assets to create value adding. When in case of musharaka or any kind of sharing, equity financing, you produce goods or services, and from the sale of these goods and services, the finance provider earns. Uh, Again, still in the sticking to assets and good, there will be a ceiling on finance determined by the real market transaction. The quantity of finance that a financial or all financial institutions in the economy can generate will not exceed the quantity of transactions that are done, or the value of the total transactions that are done in that economy, which means we cannot compile layers and layers of finance in the Islamic finance system. Otherwise, that happens really in the capitalist system. And that's well known there. It is called the upside down pyramid. There will be available collateral for its risk mitigation in the form of goods, assets that make the object of finance. When you have always an object of the finance, most likely you will have available collateral. You don't need to get collateral from outside or guarantee from outside. Uh, and that makes the financing more strong. Minimizing speculation. It is one of the elements also of Islamic finance. Every activity of production for the market is always based on expectations with the risk of with the risk of failure. Any production activity, we produce for the market. When you produce at home for eating, that's called hand to mouth production. You don't need to worry about the conditions in the market. But whenever you produce for the market, conditions in the market may affect your earning, and then you are really producing based on expectation in the market, which is the nature of our life. So we don't worry. But what is there? What is the difference between trade and speculation? Speculation is based on clicking and watching only uh, price changes without intention to dealing with that object itself. I may buy shares of IBM because I studied IBM and like it and believe it may have a good future. I may be wrong in my assessment, and I may go 3 days later and sell them out of fear that, oh, I was wrong in my assessment. But I made that because of concern, because of intention, not to look which price that can run quicker and click on it. That is speculation. So there is a difference. Usually, trade very often, although not trade in the stock market, but trade very often will have service element with it, that you bring a commodity from some other supplier at distance, or you bring it in bulk in large quantities and break it into small quantities, or you make some presentation or packaging, or etc etc. Usually trade, not necessarily but usually, is accompanied by doing some services with it. And speculation, of course, doesn't have any services with it. Sharia ruling that prevents speculation. In currencies, for instance, the Prophet ﷺ made, and personally, I consider this one of his miracles, really. He said that when you deal with cash, with money, you have to make it in full hand to hand. But when you deal with other goods, you can sell on credit. You can make the transaction on credit, or you can make it on deferred delivery. You pay now and deliver later, or even defer both payments and the delivery sometimes. But when you deal with money, you have to make it all the time hand to hand. Why? Just to reduce any potential speculation with it. The condition of hand to hand means there will be no futures in money, and there will be also no margin in money, because it says hand to hand in full. That is, you have to give and take the full quantity you are selling and buying. So a complete transaction without any margin and without any futures. Uh, in quasi currencies, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned four items that were at his time quasi currencies. Arabs at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to save date, because the date comes once in the season of date is once every year. So they save the date from the summer, they collect it, harvest it in the summer, July, August, and some of it could be up to September, but they keep it for the whole year. But if an Arab at that time needed clothes, who would take some of the date and buy for them clothes, or needed say medical help, going to the doctor, he takes also some date to pay in the form of date. These are four items that were at that time quasi money, and we apply the same rule on any item that is in our society, and that varies from one society to another. That is also quasi money. The four items that were mentioned by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at his time, and they were actually all of them quasi money, are date, salt, wheat, and barley. These four items today could be coffee bean. At the international level, when we deal at the international level, coffee bean, when I deal here in Istanbul with the seller of coffee to go and buy coffee bean, that's not really a quasi money. But in the international market, coffee bean is being traded as really an asset that could work as quasi money. So at the international market could be quasi money, but not in the local market when I buy bean by the kilo and half kilo and whatnot. So in quasi money, again, the same condition of hand to hand. That means less speculation. In removing the potentiality of speculation. In other commodities and capital market, the requirement of ownership and possession, not only ownership, but also possession. You cannot sell an item before you buy it, become owner by the buy contract. You become owner, but you cannot sell it until you have delivery also, until it becomes fully under your authority. So this condition of possession again reduces the the possibility of speculation. Okay. Uh, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is the hadith. It's a very strongly authentic hadith. Gold for gold, silver for silver, wheat for wheat, barley for barley, date for date, and salt for salt, like for like, equal for equal, and hand to hand. if the commodities differ, like selling wheat for cash, for instance, wheat for gold, or wheat for any one of these two categories. If these commodities differ, then you hand then sell at different quality quantities, need not to be equal to equal, but it must be still hand to hand. You may sell as you like, provided the exchange is done as hand to hand. Okay. The next point, point number 4 and 5, Islamic finance is developmental by its nature, because there cannot be Islamic finance without goods moving from one hand to another. And that is by definition a developmental activity that gives the signal to the producer, to the supplier, to produce more, to supply more. It is inclusive also, because it only limit the transactions to the real market, those who are in the real buy and sell, and nothing outside. Uh, of course, whatever conditions, the methodology of Islamic finance of sale-based and equity-based, or equity sharing, are described, adopted, acceptable, and practiced by all people in all societies. We are not bringing something that is not known to everybody. So, and it is easy, and it is practiced by everybody. The only thing we are saying is you cannot make finance outside these real transactions that are known in your commercial law. The final, probably final or not final, I don't know really. Uh, let's assume it is final. Uh, that is, again, of course, it's moral, and the moral element in it is obvious. We don't finance anything that is not permissible, and we don't also make any condition in the contract that is inappropriate, that is not ethically approved. So moral commitment is reflected all the time in Islamic finance. Uh, okay, now we finish the points of Islamic finance. What the reform can be if we derive it from the principles of Islamic finance. One, elimination of speculative contracts and behavior. We have a behavior that is called in the market day trading. What is the meaning of day trading? It means a person enters in the market in the morning with a given amount of cash, and want to go back in the evening with cash only. Doesn't want to يعني reach the evening owning any other share or any other thing in the market. If he's in the money market, he'll go in money market with dollars, and he wants to come back to dollars at the end of the day. Could be more or less, whether he made loss or profit. Same thing in the stock market. You go in the morning, and you want to come back in the evening. By definition, this is speculation. It has nothing to do really. You are not concerned about any company of that, and there is nothing. Yani, what is it? You are not concerned about the production of that company. What does it produce? How does it produce it? Where it goes in the economy? This is a behavioral position, which is called day trading. So day trading is by definition is really speculative, is zero sum, because all you got. Sorry. Yeah, okay. This is a reminder for me. I need to take a medicine, but anyway, in 10 minutes from now, please, we need to break because now the time of Maghrib has come during our session. Yani, in the first session, in the first session of this class, we Maghrib was exactly at 6. Now it was at 6:12 or 6:13. So I didn't want to delay it. But I'll make a break in about 10 minutes from now. I'll take my medicine and also I'll make my Maghrib prayer. And we'll make a break of about 15 minutes, inshallah. So let's complete this point. Then all zero sum contract. One of the zero sum contracts is the contract for the difference. And I can't imagine why these are permitted in the stock market and in the markets in today's world. It's pure speculation. It doesn't help the economy by anything. It's exactly like going and gambling in a gamble place. Nobody buys and nobody sells, and we assume that I am a buyer and you are a seller, and we pay each other the difference. If the price goes up and I am a buyer, then I gained. If the price goes down, then I lost. This is really only gambling. Instead of gambling on a coin and which side does it fall on, we gamble on a price of a share. It's the same kind of gambling really. So there's nothing. So zero sum contract, like contract for the difference, and behaviors like behavior of the day trading. Yes, please. Hello. Anything? Do you want to share with me anything?
I think he had his mic on by accident.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Uh, So these zero sum distort really resource allocation. Instead of using resource in these zero sum activities, resources should be used in producing food and other items that will help the economy. And this is why, as a matter of fact, as the reports say, in the year 2003, 23, in the year 2023, I didn't get the report of 24 yet. Poverty in the world increased instead of decreasing. At the same time, wealth concentration increased. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Uh, Eliminating speculative contracts and behavior. CDF, contract for the difference, really can be easily eliminated, should not exist really from the beginning to start with. Internet currency trade and internet forum, forex forum, which consume a huge amount of resources, human and financial. They do not help the economy by anything. They only make someone richer and someone poorer, and that's all, without helping the economy. Trading indices definitely should be removed completely from any market, and short sale should also be removed because short sale are purely speculative. They indicate that you don't worry about the company, or especially short sale in stocks, in shares. They only indicate that you don't worry at all about the company and about what it produces. You only worry about the price. That is pure speculative. You sell without owning a share. You borrow the share from the broker, and from the buyer on the other side won't know that this is a short sale because he'll got his shares that you borrowed them from the broker, and the broker usually borrows them again from another person who doesn't want to sell them now for say a month, and you only borrowed them for a month. At the end of the month, or after the month, say after the 30 days, you are required to buy them from the market. Your expectation that the price will be lower and you will buy it at a lower price. You sold it at a higher price, you buy it at a lower price and give it as in payment of the loan. But now the other thing may happen that ended up may make you lose instead of gain. It could be, but this is pure again speculative transaction. It is not, does it shows by its nature that you care not about the stock or the company or what are the activities that are done in that company. uh, Elimination of speculative contracts again, disallowing day trading that we mentioned it, eliminate market makers, those people who again they are kind of day traders that really they may not limit themselves to only one day, but they are not really intending to buy. They intend to buy only to sell it as soon as possible without intention really of investing in that company. Uh, and reduce market accessibility and lengthening the trade period. There are calls by many economists. Why do we need to be able to trade shares and trade money 24 hours, 7 days a week? And now, in the existing world market, you can trade currency or trade shares literally 24/7, because you can trade. Most shares will be listed from Honolulu to Tokyo to Kuala Lumpur to Delhi to Frankfurt, to Istanbul, to London and Paris, to New York, so to Los Angeles again. So literally, you can trade in any of these markets, and you can trade because the 2 weekends days will pass also through. You can trade 7 days a week, because some of these markets close on Sunday, some of them close on Saturday, some of them close on Friday, and so on. So all these, that literally you can trade both currencies, and especially internet trading on the computer. You can trade them 7/24 or 24/7, and day and night, of course, you are trading it. Why do we need that? All economists today, I would say almost without any exception, call for reducing the trading time. Why do we need that much trading time? And only that allows for speculation. Make the trading time only 2 days a week. You don't need more than that. Why do we need to spend all these efforts and even the electricity for lightening the stock market and its screens? Why do we need it 24/7? 2 days a week is sufficient. And why do you make the transaction? Okay, in almost all markets, you make the transaction, and within a few hours, you get its result, and you can move on to another transaction. Why not making 3 days? Doesn't have to be really any. You make a buy and the buy will complete it in 3 days, and make it slower. Why do we have that heat in the market? And what does it help? It doesn't really help the economy. It only help consumes more resources, more human minds is spent in it, And the final result, yes, transfer of wealth from one person to another, not really creating added wealth in the economy. Uh, I think we should stop here. Okay. Now, yani notice these things. Only about 1% of all the day traders are also are able to predictable profit net or loss of fees. 1% of all day traders, some studies showed, were able to really make real profit in the long term. And many unprofitable traders continue to trade despite an excessive experience of losses. The prevalence of trading dropped. Notice this, trading in Taiwan, the prevalence of trading dropped by roughly 25%, uh, with a lottery became available for playing on April of 2002. They made this experiment. They made through a lottery to be played, and so people, instead of playing lottery in the stock market, they went and played lottery in the this lottery thing. So it is really a form of gambling in the final thing. I will have to break now, please, with your permission. We go to the second element in reform in derivative trading. We will come back, inshallah, after 10 minutes. I will make my mic here Assalamu alaikum. I am back. Okay, so let's continue now. Uh, Now, the second point, first point, eliminating speculative contract and behavior. Now, eliminating derivative trading. You see, it doesn't say elimination of derivatives, but only their trading. Derivatives can be used as for hedging, but that's a discussion that requires really the presence of derivatives itself requires some more fundamental argument. But a stage-wise, at a first stage, as a first reform, later on we can eliminate all derivatives. But now there is a need really for eliminating derivative trading that is gaining only out of the derivatives. You buy derivative and sell derivatives. The alternative is to use them for hedging, and it's okay. You buy a derivative and you keep it, either exercise it or let die, because after 3 months it will die anyway. If you don't exercise it, then it will die. Preventing or elimination of derivative trading. There should be restrictions on options trading to limit options selling and buying to hedging objectives only. Hedging objective can be done only by individuals who own already the share or the currency that they buy or sell an option for. In other words, if you have a position, you own currency, or that is due in the future, like you exported some commodity, and a million yuan is coming to you after a month. For that, you can buy an option to hedge it, that it won't be below certain price that you expect, that price will give you the profit when it comes to you. So if you don't have an existing position, you cannot buy or sell an option. You buy or sell an option only if you have position, say options on shares, on IBM share. If you own IBM share, you can buy an option to sell, just to protect yourself, to hedge against any decrease in the price. If you already are under debt of some shares, which is not acceptable really, except in short sale. So it doesn't work. If you have a position, you can protect that position through hedging with an option. Otherwise, buying and selling options without having an already existing position, that becomes pure trading. You are trading options, attempting to make gain only from the options. So this is delegalizing options buy and sell for all those who do not have an existing real position in the market, in what you are hedging for. There is a need uh, for abolition uh, and delegalization of securitization of all credit and insurance derivatives. Credit and insurance derivatives are pure, again, speculative. They do nothing else. So trading them should be disallowed. Genuinizing regulated markets. We need to genuinize the financial market through the following measures, which are derived from the principles of Islamic finance. Add condition of genuineness to equity trading. To make transactions genuine, conditions need to be added, reduce the leverage. So there is a typing mistake here, leverage, prevent margin, eliminate margin from trading equity. Restrict commodity futures for hedging real position. If you are a farmer producing wheat, you can buy, you can sell future wheat. But if you are not a farmer producing wheat, why do you sell wheat? You need not to sell wheat. So we restrict it to those people who really are in that business. If you own a flour mill, you can buy future wheat because you need it for your production. But for other people who don't have flour mills, why do they need to buy futures, trade futures of wheat? So this is the idea here by genuinizing equity and commodity market. Restrict currency futures uh, means in the regulated financial market, it is needed to add conditions to specify who can buy and who can sell currencies. Not anyone, only those who are registered money exchangers, for instance, or banks that deal with foreign currencies. Only those can buy and sell. But to be able to buy and sell simply for me or for you by clicking on the computer, that should be restricted. The 4 point is restrictions on debt trading. Uh, Genuinize needs for debt trading or debt transfer. There may be sometimes a need for debt transfer. So make it only when it is needed for liquidity, not when it is more convenient to make more potential profit, like requiring more collateral on debts, uh, make debt collections easier and instead of debt sale. This can be normally done without profiteering from the transfer of debt, i.e., at face value. Make debts be able to be transferred, but at face value without making an economic gain from it. Removing interbank debt transactions, removing against securitization of debt, along with their domino effect, because that create domino effect and did in the past, uh, and make debt rescheduling without additional to the face value at face value. So debt rescheduling should be by law made only at face value. Otherwise, don't schedule. Take measures to collect the debt on time. Uh, okay. Next, prevention of debt trading in Islamic finance makes debt creating institutions more. This is an important point, really. When in Islamic banks today, they can debt transfer to another bank is not practiced at all. because it's not economical. And why should the other bank give you cash instead of the debt that will be due later at the same face value? So it is not really practiced. But Islamic banks, that makes Islamic banks more careful about the strength of the debt. And when they created, at the time of creating the debt, you will be more careful that the debt is really secured, the debt is really going to be paid on time. Otherwise, you don't create a debt. So you be more conservative in creating debt itself. So that makes you more concerned because you cannot throw the buck to some other institution. Next, okay, require in financing individuals and corporations that you finance through sale or lease or venture capital. And that is really possible. It's not difficult at all. It's that puts a natural ceiling on credit creation and expansion of financial assets. Credit issuance cannot exceed the size of the real market needs. The transaction signal would be no more from the market, the finance market to the real market. You got finance and you go buy. Rather, you decide what you want to buy and go finance it. So the market signal will have a different direction in this way, and it makes it more realistic, more productive. It will be transmitted from the real market to the financial market. It removes interbank debt transactions and securitization of debt, which do not add value or create wealth. Okay, let's see what is next. The final thing is to reach a stage where all finance can be done through sale and lease or through equity, that is venture capital, in that sense. Remove interbank debt transactions and replace them with bank cooperation contract. There is in Islamic finance, or there are in Islamic finance, contracts that create cooperation between banks other than syndication. For instance, syndication is well known, but like the line of credit that may be given from one bank to another bank to give murabaha in the other bank. So this is another way of cooperation between banks. There is also another, instead of overdraft between banks, you can make again another form of cooperation called musharaka line of credit or mudaraba line of credit. Therefore, interbank transactions should be made genuine and related to the real market. That makes them related to the real market through bank cooperation contract, which are based on the final goods and services, on the real transactions of final goods and services, not outside that. They should not be detached from the real economy. Next. Okay, this point here is create a standby last resort finance provider. This is part of the public policy, really, in the economy. If some of you may have heard about the crisis of 2008 and what George Bush, the son, did after it. Then after a year came the President Obama. And again, he made another support to the banking or to the finance sector, banks and insurance companies. What happened is in 2008, when banks had the pressure of the crisis and after the declaration of the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers Bank in September 2008, several other banks, many of the community banks and local banks in the United States, large number of them, in fact, again, declared bankruptcy. Only the few big were able to sustain the amount of losses that were incurred because of inability of those who took finance on housing to pay for their financing, and they gave the banks the houses that were financed at high prices, but now anyway the prices in the market are very low relative to the amount that they were financed. So all banks were really hit hard by that. What happened in the market, that okay, some banks had trouble, but the result was that banks withheld funding from companies, and there were unemployment in productive companies, companies that produce other things, everything. Yani they produce from the ships to the computers to the furniture to other things, all kind of things. About 2 million workers were laid off because banks withheld financing from companies. The practice in the capitalist market today.
Hello? जी I'm sorry नहीं ला रहे पहले तो इतनी देर हो गई
Hello, close your mic, please. Whoever is speaking, close your mic, please. So what happened in the market, that because banks had some difficulties, they withheld financing from the industrial and business companies that produce huge amounts of things to the market. And their practice, their normal practice, that usually wages are financed by this what they call it working capital finance for short term within 1 year from banks. So when banks withheld this financing, the industrial production declined because the companies could not pay wages for their workers and they laid them off. And there were 2 million people at least quickly were laid off within a few months. Now, the rescue bill at the time of George Bush, at the end of the presidency of George Bush, the son, the rescue bill, about $780 billion, went to the financial institutions. Instead, let financial institution go bankrupt and create another, a standby financial institution to help the real economy, to help companies that produce real goods and services, instead of laying their employees and let them out and reducing their ability to produce. So we didn't have that standby financial institution. In my opinion, based on the concept of Islamic finance, we need a standby financial institution instead of rescuing these really wrongdoers, those who expanded the credit in the market a lot more than what the market needed, and to make quick profits out of that, and especially for the crisis of 2000, it was a matter of quick profit of 2008. It was a matter of quick profit to a large extent. Getting quick profit and caring not about what will happen to the debt, because you securitize it and throw it in the market. So the result was many companies that are not related at all to the real estate market again had to lay off their employees and reduce their production without really any good reason, simply because banks withheld financing from them. Instead, if we have a standby institution, financial institution that would help these, let banks go to hell. We shouldn't worry about that. But we do not destroy the real market, which was really hit hard because of the financial crisis, that they did not contribute in creating it. But yet they were hit hard because of withholding funding from them. Had we had a standby financial institution with that huge amount of money of the $780 billion, instead of distributing them between the wrongdoers, financial institutions, banks, and insurance companies who were trading debts instead of helping the economy. Had we had a standby institution with this amount of money, we could have saved many companies, and we could have averted laying off 2 million workers and hitting 2 million families in our economy. So that was really an issue which we should reconsider. This is the point here. Okay. And the final thing here is there is a need for a financial ombudsman. The experience in the American market, especially since the mid 80s until the crisis of 2008, and even after it, people are expecting crisis now anytime again. The problem, the main problem, is caused because you don't have an ombudsman. Ombudsman in Arabic is al-hisba. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam introduced a concept of al-hisba in the market, where there is a person, and it happened at the time of the Prophet. He appointed a lady. Her name was Shayma. Her job was to go around in the market and see if there is any excess by any trader that making anything that has a moral issue. Not necessarily a legal issue at that point. Before we reach the legal violation, anything that may affect the market, they look for it before it happens and before it becomes a big issue. This is the job of the ombudsman, and we need a financial ombudsman. The supervisory authority comes later, and it proved that it was not able really to do the job. I remember I was told by one of the important persons in one of the major 5 banks in America at the time of the crisis, that, well, we don't worry really about what the Federal Reserve makes with the prime rate, because we are bigger than all the 12 banks of the Federal Reserve, and we do what we want internally. So we don't worry at all about whatever they declare as prime rate or whatnot. That doesn't affect us, and we don't count on that anyway. So this is a point. We need really an ombudsman in the market, a muhtasib, a hisba system in the market that can bring the signal before a problem happens, that could have, for instance, avoided the huge securitization that was done in the years 2004 and 5 and 6 that culminated in the crisis in 2008, end of 2007 and 2008 exaggerated, and the bubble was completely broken. So this is a financial ombudsman would have warned us a lot earlier, would have brought it to our attention that, oh, this securitization that is done is really too much, is really unrealistic, should be some measures should be done earlier, maybe from 2001 or 2, to reduce it so that we don't have that big issues later. So this is the idea of ombudsman. And okay, the last point here is regulations by the central banks. That relates really especially to Islamic banks. There are some issues in Islamic banks today that are not yet solved and that need to be really solved. These issues, like for instance, there is no unification of the Murabaha contract even within the same country between different Islamic banks. For instance, here in Turkey, we have 6 Islamic banks now, and yet there is no unified Murabaha contract between them all. There is an attempt that started, Islamic banks started in Turkey in the 1980s, and only a couple of years ago, an attempt started to unify some of the contracts, and they started with one contract, and they are still in that one contract for the last 2 years, did not reach the second one yet. And the first one was not yet unified between Islamic banks that exist in the country. So there is a need for unifying within at least each country alone. There is a need for law that defines what Islamic banks are. There is another issue also in Sharia governance, that Sharia governance is done by Sharia specialists, could be very respected people, very knowledgeable people, but they are paid and selected and appointed by the management of the bank. And that is really an inappropriate way for Sharia governance. Sharia experts should be completely independent and should be paid by, like by the central bank, for instance, by a central authority, not by the bank itself, for which they give their Sharia advice. And of course, there is potential possibility that they may favor the bank that against some other external persons in their Sharia fatwa. So, because they are a human being, they may be affected by the good word from those who pay them anyway. They pay their honoraria, their compensation for their work. So this is there is a need for, again, improvement of Sharia governance. These are the two main issues that need to be really taken care of by central banks in all countries that have Islamic banks in them. This is probably about all. Okay. Other necessities. I remember in 2009, what's the name of that country? in Singapore in 2009, shortly after the real estate crisis in America. Singapore noticed that people started again speculating on real estate in Singapore. So what Singapore did at that time is to restrict sale of real estate. Like if you buy a real estate property, you cannot sell it in less than 6 months. Or if you buy it, it will take 2 months until it is registered in your name. And you cannot sell it definitely before it is registered to your name. So making it difficult to speculate. Speculation may happen in any market. Here in Istanbul, for instance, in Turkey 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, there were speculation on apartments. Apartments were getting being sold 2, 3 times every year. Then government made some restrictions on apartment registration, and people started speculating on used cars. Used car became in Istanbul market more expensive than new cars. And that remained really for some time until the government stepped in again and put some restrictions on buying and selling a car. You cannot sell a car if you buy it within the past 6 months or so. You have to keep it at least for 6 months. No, a person may not buy more than one car in a year, or more, cannot sell more than one car in a year, and so on. These kind of restrictions were necessary really in other markets. So here what we say, that there is a need for taming speculation in all markets, not only in the financial market. In the potato market, there may be speculation on it, and then we need an ombudsman, a muhtasib, a hisba system to prevent any attempt of speculation on potato or on tomato or on meat, and so on. So this is an important issue, that the eye of the government should be always on the watch from the for speculation, because speculation hurts the economy and hurts the real market in the final thing, no matter on what you speculate. There is a need for leveling the grounds between Islamic and conventional banks in the economy. For instance, in some countries, Islamic banks, because they have to buy and sell, they are made subject to sales tax, whereas conventional banks are not made to pay sales tax, because they only give loan and the buyer buy directly from the supplier. So here, when you make the transaction through an Islamic bank, you have to pay the sales tax twice. The bank should pay it, and of course, the bank will reflect it on the customer, like leveling the ground, considering bank purchase is a financial purchase, not really a commercial purchase. So it should not be. It should be exempt from this sales tax. This is a thing that was done, for instance, in UK, in Britain. They did that, and that encourages Islamic, or encouraged Islamic banks to be established in Britain. There are 5 Islamic banks now in Britain. So leveling the ground between them in matters of tax, in matters of supervision, etc. Adopt clear macro development policy and enhance credit development allocation. That there is a need for allocating credit that banks give, Islamic or conventional, toward more development, toward more real goods in the Islamic market, in the Islamic finance. Only real goods are being financed anyway, but there may be the desire in the government to finance certain areas, certain sectors more than others. But in conventional banks, there is no such thing. Financing could be given simply to pay an old debt instead of enhancing the real market. Credit should be only given for enhancing the real market, whether to consumers or to producers. There is a need also to enhance Sharia compliant interbank markets between Islamic banks like Murabaha line of credit or Musharaka line of credit. There are there is also another contract called reverse Murabaha and so on that could be really considered, and swaps and others. So there is a need really for regulating these transactions even between Islamic banks. That is all for today, and we have time for questions and answers. I hope one of you who asked me that question, why the seller cannot change the price after the sale but before delivery, which I answered it already. I hope she got her answer in that. But anyway, I am open to any question. Again, I want to repeat before questions. Please, if you send me any email in the past 4 days, including today, send it again to my university email address, monzer.kahf@isu.edu.tere. And at least from now onward, always send to the two emails at the same time. Anything you email me, email it to the two emails at the same time, please. Okay. Now the floor is open for questions. Yes, please. Let's start with JD. Jasim. Go ahead, please. Okay. Well, I have JD. JD is Jasim. Is Mariam or Jasim? Anyway, go ahead.
Sheikh,
Turn
I'm
on
trying
your
to
mic.
ask. Can
Go
you hear
ahead,
me now?
please. Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. First of all, Jazakumullah khair for this lecture. Very useful. I want to ask about you said it would be good to have a standby body to support in case of a crisis or in situations such as a crisis. Would the federal bank in the US or Bank of Canada and Canada, for example, play this role, or should it be a different kind of institutions?
I think should be a governmental institution closer to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in United States that support the real estate market. It started as a government organization in long time ago and created to support the real estate market. We need a standby organization, governmental to begin with, at least, that can help the real market instead, in other words, to avert transmitting the financial crisis from to use the words of Nancy Pelosi, from the Wall Street market to the real market. What happened in 2008, that the crisis was financial only, and it should remain in the pocket of the financial institutions. Why it should affect the real market? But many employees in the real market were laid off because of withholding financing. So we needed this standby organization to replace that financing to the real market, to a kind of shield the real market from the wrongdoing of the financial market.
So would that then be something like CDIC in Canada, where they guarantee deposits in financial institutions?
That's a different issue. This guarantee organization, it exists in the United States also,
Yep.
but that's a different. No, it's not a guarantor. It is a finance institution that provide finance, not a guarantor. It provide finance to these companies instead of laying off their employees.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Jazakumullah khair. My second
طيب.
question there and last one is you said that hedging for an asset owner such as a farmer would be permissible. I do agree with this view, and that was my view before. But what I heard as an objection to that is if a farmer is selling his wheat before he actually growing them, he's selling what he doesn't own. How would we tackle that, or how would we answer that?
Well, first, I said this is a stepwise reform. The final thing, which I said it earlier in previous discussion, that options are not true assets that should not be bought, should not be sold, should not be owned, should not be traded. But as a step toward reaching that, disallowing trading them for and permitting using them for hedging only for those who have real position. This is one. The second thing, uh, sale before you produce, is it not permissible? It is permissible. And sale of what you don't own applies to not to what can be said like sale on description. This is a point that is a little bit delicate, and you really need to understand it in a clear way. We have a contract which we will come to, is called salam in Sharia, and it's known since the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the, in fact, since the time before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was known in the Arabia and in all other countries, and it is practiced even today everywhere in the world. And this salam contract is a contract of financing the producer, that you pay now and you get the delivery later. And at the time of the Prophet was a contract really to finance agriculture, because producers in agriculture need to pay to have the seeds now, and to spend on their family for 6 months until the wheat, for instance, comes out from the ground and they can harvest it and sell it. So they need financing in advance. So this is the contract of salam, is one of the contracts that were approved by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is known in Sharia. It is discussed in fiqh. It is a contract of selling a thing that can be fully described and with a definite date and place of delivery at a future delivery, at a price that is paid now. So it is a contract for financing the producer really, and financing the farmer. So it becomes like that from this angle. Now I come to to the hadith again, which is a correct hadith also that you referred to. Or sale of what you don't own is not permissible. I'll give you an example. Now I have in my hand my computer that I use at home and I use it also at the office. This laptop is owned by the university. It's not my laptop. Okay, my laptop was taken by my wife. So this laptop, it's in my hand. Can I sell it to you? No, because I don't own it. So when we talk about this, I cannot sell it to you definitely because I don't own it. This is the meaning of don't sell what you don't own. The example that happened exactly, which was when this hadith was mentioned, a companion whose name was Hakim ibn Hizam. This companion was really a great person. He was a very smart person. And before Islam, he was at one time partner of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca. He was his partner, was an honest man, a good man, and they did business together in partnership. When this man became Muslim, at one time, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him 10 dirham and told him they need to eat. Really, they were a large group of people. Buy us a sheep so we can get it and slaughter it for eating. So he went to the market, bought a sheep, and on his way coming back, a man saw him, a stranger, and like this sheep that he has in his hand. So he negotiated with him to sell it to him, and he sold it to him for 20 dirham, that is 2 dinar, double the amount that was for which he bought it. So he went again to the market and bought 2 sheep now, and came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sorry, he didn't buy 2 sheep. He bought another sheep from the market, again for 10 dirham, and came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, told him, or here is the sheep you asked me to buy, and here is your money also because I made profit with your money. This is the other 10 dirham is yours. Again, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, no, you cannot do that. You were not authorized to sell. The sheep that you bought is not yours. You were agent only. It is mine. So how come you sold my sheep? That is the meaning of don't sell what you don't own. And it applies to things that are kind of defined. But when you sell on description, a thing that can be in existence at the time of delivery, that's permissible. So here, for instance, many times people ask me, oh, they sell on the internet and they have a sample, things like this thing. I sell you thing like this, and they don't have it. When they get an order from a customer, they ask the producer or the supplier. They already have agreement with him, and they ask him ship to this address this piece of this commodity, and they do, and that's fine. Many people took this hadith and thought, oh, it is haram, this business is haram. I always tell them, no, this business is not haram. It is permissible as long as you sell on full description a thing that can be delivered at the time of delivery, and I think that you set the delivery date and place in advance in the contract. Okay, any other question? N here, whoever your name is, please go ahead. I see a hand from N.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. So you give examples of speculation in Turkey, something to do with cars, and then before that, apartments. So my question is like, at what point does buying selling become speculative?
When you really don't worry about the item and you don't care about the item you are dealing with, that becomes speculative.
So it's more
And
to do
that,
with Nia. That's it, or is there something else besides Nia that makes
well,
that?
I mean, it's the niyyah for individual transactions. But if you remember in the examples, I gave several examples of speculation. Day trading is speculation by definition. The nature of it is speculation, because you never cared about what is it. You only want to make some buck in it and buy and sell, because and your intention is to go back to liquid at the end of the day. That's speculation. That means all you are doing is speculation. Contract for the difference is speculation. Buying index is only speculation. You are not buying anything that produces any added value, and the like. Otherwise, in your own transaction, yes, I buy shares and I sell shares, but يعني I bought a share here in Istanbul and I still have it for the last 2.5 years. So, yes, the niyyah becomes essential when you are dealing on individual kind of thing. But when I deal with the law, I can reduce speculation by making a time element, like what Singapore did, for instance. If you buy a house, you cannot sell it for less than 6 months. I am avoiding speculation by that.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Doctor.
Any other question? طيب, guys.
Professor, I have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, hand-to-hand trading. What does this mean?
Yes.
Yeah, yani specifics.
Okay. Now, in currencies means, and this hadith is about currencies and quasi money. Money and quasi money. Money at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was gold, but was not necessarily coined gold. Gold used to be used as money in the form of coins, and coins were made by the Romans for gold and by the Persians for silver, the dinar and the dirham. Dinar was made in Constantinople, in Istanbul today, by the Romans, and the dirham was made in Kisra country, whatever. It was near what is now Baghdad, his capital. So but the Arabs were also using gold and silver as pieces, like small rocks, or as minced, like almost powder, like very small pieces, extremely small pieces. Almost like powder, but just a little bit not so soft like powder. So the gold and silver were used in these three forms as money. This is why at the time of the Prophet, Arabs were using it by weight. So the weight, that's why you may have heard the word mithqal. Mithqal means dinar, really, at that time, because the weight of mithqal was the dinar was mithqal in weight, or the amount of gold in it was mithqal. So this is gold and silver, and the Prophet ﷺ said in gold and silver, and in the other four items which were quasi money, were used as quasi money: date, barley, wheat, and salt. And notice that three of these items are foodstuff, and they are agricultural products. The other one, salt, is a mineral. And of course, it's not a foodstuff, it's a food additive. That's obvious. Okay. So the money and quasi money, the Prophet said, when you deal with them, it has to be hand to hand, means that you have to make full payment at the time of the contract of what you, payment of what you give, and delivery taking of what you get. To the extent that there is a narration that one companion wanted to exchange gold for silver. So he was at the door standing with the other companion. So he took the gold from him and told him, I'm going inside to bring you the silver. The other companion told him, no, that's not what the Prophet said. Give me the gold, go bring the silver from inside, and we will exchange it then. Don't take it in your hand. So this is that the meaning of hand to hand means immediate delivery of both what is sold and bought at the time of the contract. Okay, go ahead, please.
If I could
Uh,
add follow up,
Yes.
on slide 19, you mentioned day traders, they only make like yani it's very hard to be successful, only 1% to make profit. Where's that statistic from?
This is some statistical thing that
Oh,
I don't have. Maybe in some of the references at the end
that's
you
okay.
may find it. And its source could be in one of these references.
Okay, khair. But that's the reality. It's very hard.
That's what happened into it mentioned
2008, yeah.
the year. Yeah.
Okay, khair.
Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. Do you okay? N, you still have your hand. Do you still have a
yes,
question?
I have lots of questions, doctor. So
Okay.
I'll just ask one question at a time, and then I'll come back. If,
Okay.
so yeah, so this is a question I had because, and please correct me if I misunderstood you. You mentioned that debt is a real asset, and then on slide 8, in realism, you mentioned that financial instruments are considered and legitimized only if they represent real assets. So does that
No.
mean debt-based instruments
Wait.
are
Wait. 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 Not. That's not what I said. I said
okay?
we look at them for what they represent. If they represent debt, which is real, we deal with it as real, but debt is mute, then we apply the rules of mute asset. If they represent a fake asset, then they are fake. If they represent a complex of goods and services and machines and debts and cash and whatnot, like share of a company, so what they represent. So we look at them by what they represent and apply to them the rules that apply to what they represent. In other words, they are not separate, they are not a different property other than what they represent. Okay?
Uh, Doctor, I did not understand.
Well, sorry for that. Uh, okay, let's take a security, a bond, a treasury bond. A
Yes,
treasury bond is a debt on the government. So
yes.
it's a real asset and it's a debt on the government. But this real asset does not generate any added value. And if you want to exchange it, you exchange it only at face value because it's a debt. This is the rule that we exchange debts. Debts may be transferred from one person to another, but this transfer should be at face value. Transfer of debt from one person to another is not prevented, is permissible, but it should be at face value. It doesn't have to be noticed at the same time of the contract, but only at face value. Whereas if it is cash, if it represents cash, suppose it is a certificate of deposit, it represents cash. So this cash should be if you buy it, it should be at face value and also at the same time of the contract. Delivery of both the certificate of deposit and the cash must be done at the same time. If it represents a share, it's a composite of what the company has, asset minus its liabilities. So this composite, you own part of this composite, and this is a productive composite. You can own it, you can weight it. If it produces a thing that is permissible in Sharia, if it produces liquor, it is haram to own it because it produces liquor. So we look at it always by what it represents. If it represents machines that produce liquor, then it is treated like haram. Okay, and so on. So we go on. We don't look at it itself. It is not a property or separate in itself from what it represents. Only we look at what it represents. If it represents an option, then it's nothing. If it represents a Bitcoin, then it is nothing. Okay, did I explain it now?
Yeah, I'm going to take that away and I'm just going to deliberate over it, inshallah ta'ala. But jazakallah khair for that.
Okay. Go ahead, whatever questions that you have. You will still have your hand.
Yeah, I have lots of questions. If anyone has other questions, please raise your hands and I will stop and then I'll
Well,
come
I
back.
don't see any other hand now,
Khalas, I'll
and
go
we
ahead.
still have some minutes.
Okay, so yeah, you have mentioned some of the things to reduce speculation, and one of those things were, for example, reduce market hours, etc. I mean, like even and you mentioned the salam, for example, was there in the time of the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him as well. So my question is, did any? I mean, like, do we have precedents within Islam where the the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him or the Khulafa they took measures like reducing market hours or to reduce speculation, or is it something from Islam, or is it one of the solutions that the scholars of today have come up to reduce speculation?
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, you mentioned the example of salam, and notice that in salam, one of the things that reduce speculation is that if you purchase salam, you cannot sell what you bought. You have to wait until you take delivery, and after taking delivery, you can sell it. It becomes yours completely. But now it is not. You own it, but you own it as a debt on the other guy, debt in kind on the other guy, and you cannot sell it. So this is again this measure here, which is said by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam again and practiced at his time, that once you make a sale on salam, you cannot sell the salam goods until you take delivery of it or until after taking delivery of it. So this is, and other things, what the issue of currency trading and so on. Currency trading is not haram, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not prevent it, and it existed at his time, but it was done only by those who need it. Exchanging currency for another currency was done only by those who need it. It was not done on speculative basis. And the Prophet ﷺ anyway prevented speculation in it by making these two conditions in it. When you sell gold for gold, it has to be same quantity and same time. But if you sell gold for silver, quantity need not to be the same. You can sell 30 Turkish lira for $1, but doesn't have to be 1 for 1. But it has to be at the same time. That condition, why did the Prophet do it? Simply, clearly, all it means is reducing speculation. So when we have several incidences and several saying and several rules established in Sharia, all of them fall in one direction: reduce speculation. we can say, oh, the speculation is wrong. This is obviously, yes, it is done by contemporary ulama. And remember, at the time of the Prophet, there was no banks. Although the ideas of credit, sale on credit existed, but there was no financial intermediation business. There were no persons or institutions that take the excess savings from those who have them and channel them to those who use them. That never happened at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It never happened in the Muslim land until late 300 years later, even after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And remember that the first Islamic bank was established in the literally, the bank as a bank was in 1975. Commercial Bank in Dubai and Islamic Development Bank in 1974, Intergovernmental Bank. So that business did not exist, and you need new fatwa that is suitable for the new activities. And these new activities are we're not there, but we take them by applying the same principles on them. Okay.
Thank you, doctor. I'm good. Jazakallah khair.
طيب, if there are no more questions, thank you very much. We can close today. And reminder, please. Now, let me see. How many people do I have now? I have 8 people only. Am I correct? Okay. So 8 people, and I don't see the name of Hiba Fadli. Are you
No.
with us, or there are?
Yes, Professor, it's actually 11. We are 12 and
11. Yes, I see here. Yeah, okay. 11. Okay. Now, please, I will send you, Hiba, the names who made the 2 homeworks and until now. And definitely there are, I assume that we have 15 persons. So we have 11 of them, and the last time also we didn't have more than that anyway. In homework 2, only 9 people did it. And one of them sent me again the corrected one. I will look at it, but I didn't receive it in my email. I saw it on my telephone and I could not transfer it to the laptop. That's why I want you to please use the other email. Okay. So anyway, those who dropped, it's fine, definitely with me. We will continue with those who are really concerned about this course. Remember that again, I want to apologize from you guys for being a bit strict on the homework, and I want to apologize for delaying correcting your homework, your second homework, until Friday, because I was busy with other things. Thanks God, I still have one more week before my school begin here, and I have 2 courses to give. One of them is kind of new. I didn't give it in Arabic before, so it's going to be one in Arabic, and I need to give it and make some good preparation for it. But anyway, inshallah, we will continue this course, and I pledge to continue it, inshallah, with you. If you are with those of you who are really concerned about learning this matter. Barakallah fikum. طيب, جزاكم الله خير. Thank you very much, and see you inshallah next week. And see your homework within 48 hours. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah, alaikum salam.